Welcome back. In today's video edition here, I'm going to be teaching you signs to know that your evaporator is calling for help. Where is your evaporator core? Evaporator core is most often times, most people who owns their car sometimes don't even know what evaporator looks like because they only feel the effect that this guy brings up, except on a certain note that you are not maintaining your car properly, and that is where you might get to see it first. Or you might just hear the mechanic told you that you have a bad evaporator, and sometimes most of the mechanics don't even know how to diagnose a bad evaporator. But in this today edition, you should be able, after this very video here, you should be able to know when you see these signs, when you start perceiving these signs, you know definitely your evaporator is calling for your help. The first symptoms is that you turn on your AC system and you're perceiving a bad odor gulping out of this very vent here. If you started noticing a bad odor gulping out of that vent, there are several reasons that can actually trigger that. But the most common reason when you start perceiving a strong, terrible odor coming out of here, like as if it's a gasoline or a gas coming out of this very place here. I don't know, most of you might not be very familiar with the smell of R134A refrigerant or Freon because you're not a service technician. But most of you who are service technician know exactly what it is. But as a car owner or driver on board, you might not know what it smells like. But when you started perceiving that odor, then that is an indicative that your evaporator is calling for help, and that help there is to replace it to save your own health. Because if you don't replace it, when you jump the door like this, start up your engine, turn on your AC system, and start driving and enjoying the car and still getting all that chunk of smell into your lungs, you're gonna be having a respiratory problem on a long run because of a contamination of the air that you breathe inside. And that is actually stemming from the judgment call, which the help kind of call, the 911 call, which the evaporator is pulling, and you didn't go for that rescue mission. You failed to actually attend to that emergency call, and that is actually helping to depleting your own health. Second way which the evaporator tells you that there is a problem in the system that you need is calling for your help is when your AC is not performing very cold as it should. When your AC is not performing cold as it should, for any reason, sometimes with the refrigerant quantity as it's supposed to, you have the right refrigerant quantity right inside there, but still it's not performing. You check the suction lines and they are sweating pretty much, but still inside you're not getting a cold air. That's an indicative, that's a calling, emergency call from the evaporator that you need to make some sort of certain step, and some of these steps can actually save the evaporator from dying, like replacing your pollen filter or trying to unclog the uh, evaporator, because at that very stage right there, there's an indicative that there is a lot of dead particles and debris that are clogging up the evaporator fins and not allowing it to freeze up and creating a poor performance inside the system. So what this actually does is, technically speaking, is stressing the compressor to work more, because when that happens, the compressor is not going to stop pumping refrigerant, right? It's going to keep the clutch engaged and will not short cycle. When your car AC system doesn't short cycle, especially when you have the speed at a very low, you have the blower motor speed somewhere around here, it doesn't mean that everything is good. It means that you're actually dancing into a fire. You're dancing into a trouble, because it should be able to do so. And that is actually due to a evaporator that is not getting cold enough due to particles of dirt and debris that are inside. The third way which the evaporator calls you and need your attention is when you start seeing frost coming out of the vent. Whoa! We are looking for AC, we're looking for cold air coming out of the vent, but nobody says that snow should start coming out of the vents. I know most of you might be crazy enough to start imagining that, but when you start seeing that, that is not a good sign. It's actually a sign which the evaporator is passing a message to you that, look, there is something very terrible, very wrong inside the system, and also wrong with me. You gotta check me out, or you could be running into a hefty repair bills. Now, the funny side on the other, on the realistic truth that is actually there, that is underlying truth that is there, is the evaporator. Anything that goes to the evaporator sometimes is not often cheap. It's expensive because you have to get through a whole lot of things to actually get to it, and that makes the job much more complex and takes more out of that will take more out of your pocket, and it doesn't leave it doesn't leave any easy role for the mechanics or car enthusiasts who are fixing it. So it is not any damn thing, anything easy. It could be anything, but easy is not one of them. Now, in other words, there are other signs that you could be having right there, which is actually showing that there is something wrong with your evaporator core. But these very trivial ones are the major judgment call that the evaporator put on to tell you that there is a problem. So if you see it, do not hesitate to attend, because any move you make, from replacing the pollen filter, from recovering the entire system, which is part of the process of fixing this. I almost missed that actually. Replacing your pollen filter and getting a compressed air, blown through some of this place, and it's supposed the nozzle of the compressed air pipe can actually reach that. You can be able to use it and pass through here. There are a lot of dirt here. You can actually force it through there, so you can be able to get some of those debris that are within those areas there out. Why do you want to do that? It's very safe to do it from here, to have a pressurized air to go through here, forced air through here and through here, because when the evaporator sucks air, it pulls vacuum and pushes it and forces it to go through the evaporator core there. So when the blower motor works and pulls vacuum, it pulls air from the inside and forces it and other dead particles, if suppose you fail to replace your pollen filter on time, and pushes it to go through there and stuck in through the eyes of the evaporator core. Now the next thing it does when it does that, it gets it decongested. Alright, so when you force air through here, you're gonna be pushing it out through that way. The last one I'm gonna be using to conclude this very video here is, if you started perceiving other odors, strange odors that are not actually stemming from, that are not like as if you have you have a gas leaking there, or maybe some gasoline, then you have some sort of terrible odor coming out of here. That is an indicative that your evaporator needs attention. And within that time, if you haven't started topping off your refrigerant very much often, like every now and then, and your technician is busy combing the whole place trying to find where the problem is coming from, then you can be damn sure that there is a whole lot. All right, you're one of the luckiest person, but the luckiest person doesn't mean that you're out of the woodwork, because that is an indicative that there is a lot of dirt particles, leaves, and some other contaminant that is settling down right in the bottom part of your evaporator, and probably the drain plug could be clogged. Most of the drain plug is actually what you see that lets out the condensation water out. But if it is plugged up, then it will leave the water to sit in there, and when it's stay there for quite a long time, then it starts forming some bacteria, which you're now seeing some of its attributes as offensive odor coming out of your vents. So, guys, you know how we rock and roll. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, share this video with others. I'll catch you guys later.